I mean it when I say this. I believe Attack on Titan is one of the best shows ever written in the world, ever. In any timeline, any universe. Period. It is a sentiment that I will carry to the grave for as long as I goddamn live. It's masterful in the way it builds around mystery whilst at the same time burns the personality of its central characters into the audience's head. The first 3 seasons, whilst they do have a very heavy plot, and you might think that it's plot driven rather than character driven, it is the characters, I believe, that carry the story forwards. At the end of the day, it always focuses on the characters' personalities, their philosophies, their intellect, and their motivations, and in the final season, they then take every single character and they put them in an unknown territory. And in my opinion, and I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of this, I've spoken to a lot of people who get to the final season and they turn off because it's not the same as it was, but for me, I think it works so well, and I think it's maybe the best season of the show. I don't know. I say that with a lot of hesitation. But is it perfect? Of course it's not. No, I don't think any story is 100% perfect. There are a few problems from time to time, like any show, but there are so many good things about it that you can forgive a lot of the problems. This video is not an analysis, it's not a deep dive. All this is really is just a guy talking about how much he loves this show and the things that he loved and worked for him. There will be a little bit of analysis, obviously, but most of it is just like me going, look, I love this character, I love this plot point, I love it. And this will also be the first part of 3 videos because I was writing this and I realized there is so much that I want to say that I need to like break it down into a few videos. So look, if you want to watch a video of a guy who just loves Attack on Titan and loves the story that it tells and you want to see him just gush over it, then here we are. I will die for John. When John is initially introduced to the show, he is not very likable. He comes off as this annoying, lazy guy who just wants to become a military police member so that he can live a life of luxury within the interior, within the walls, and not really have to worry about any of the problems that come with being a scout or fighting titans. He wants a safe life. Now maybe you could interpret that as the breaking of Wall Maria fucked him up so much that he just wants to live alone, but he makes it pretty clear that he just wants a very cushy life, and I don't blame him, but this isn't a very likable character trait. And you would be forgiven for thinking that he's just going to be an uninteresting side character who's kind of like a Pokemon rival to Erwin. However, in season 1, when Wall Rose is infiltrated by the Titans, John watches as his comrades get killed. Something unlocks in his brain for him then. Being forced into that position and seeing people that you care about, your comrades, your friends, seeing them die, these people that you've trained with, he got to know a lot of these people. They all got to know each other. And almost immediately, he was kind of holstered into this leadership position. He was forced to make decisions. Nobody else around him was doing it, but there was something inside of John that felt like he had to do something. And look, no one forced him to be a leader. No one really put it on him. No one said, John, you're going to be our leader now. It kind of just happened to him. His natural reaction to the situation that he was put in was just to become a leader. It seems like he didn't even know that he had that in him. He didn't know that he was a leader until the time came to lead. And so what follows is him making on-the-fly decisions and reading situations and trying to make sure that his team makes it back to HQ safely. He recognizes that they can't fight the Titans. They're cadets, they're new, already a few of them have died. What they need to do is go back to HQ and figure out what to do there and regroup. But on the way, a lot of people died. He knew that people were going to die. He still had to do it. It was the only logical thing that he could do. Jean is not a strategist. Jean is a tactician. He understands what to do in certain situations, but he can't figure out a big long-term plan. When he's thrown into a situation, he can read it, he can figure out the best way to get out of it or to tackle it, but he can't come up with long-term strategies. And we really see this in this sequence as him and Marco and a few other cadets, a lot of them die as they run towards HQ. And when they arrive at HQ, they charge through the walls and they see a few cadets lying on the floor underneath a desk, and they're shitting themselves. He scolds these people and he's like, what the hell are you doing? We're out fighting for our lives, holding the line down, and you're in here hiding. And he realizes that this is kind of what he wanted to do. He wanted to hide and pretend everything's fine. That's not something that he can do anymore. He's thrown into this position of leadership and real life consequences, real life situations that he's been thrown into. It was a very traumatizing time for the cadets that were in that building. And I think maybe if Jean had seen what these people were going through, maybe he would have sympathized more and tried to help them more. He wouldn't have scolded them, but he wasn't there. It's been shown a lot of times throughout the show that when Jean is confronted with genuine human emotion, he sympathizes with those people. When he sees how people are feeling, when he sees the effects of people, he does genuinely respond with kindness and empathy, but he didn't get the chance to see that in this HQ. Now later on, when him and a lot of the cadets are trying to figure out how to take down the Titans that are inside the HQ, Marco tells John that he's not strong, but he is very good at weighing up situations, and Marco's not wrong. When Marco dies, that's when John decides to join the Scouts. He decides to do what Marco told him to do, to lead, to weigh up situations, to use his skills to better humanity, to better himself. And I love him for that. I love that he did that. So this is my 4th rewatch of the show. I watched it once by myself, once with my best friend, another time with my ex, and now I'm watching it now. Maybe it's my 5th time actually, because I think I've rewatched it again with the same ex. I can't remember. But this time as I'm watching it, as I'm trying to pay more attention to it for this video, I've noticed that Jean's arc is probably the most straightforward and clear-cut arc of the entire show. And I think that's because there is so much going on in this season, what with Erin, Mikasa's relationship with Erin, the female Titan, trying to figure out what's going on with the mystery of the Titans and how people can turn into these Titans. It's very easy to overlook Jean's very simple arc, and his arc is just, he starts off as a guy who is selfish and he realizes he shouldn't be selfish anymore. That's the entirety of his arc, and it's one that I bloody love in season 1. Whilst I do love the complexities of a lot of the stories in Attack on Titan, and I just love, you know, stories that are quite complex in general, but I think there is something to be said about having a very clear-cut, straight-up hero's arc, and I think John is 100% a hero. In fact, after everyone understands that Erwin is a Titan, it's Jean that says to him, look, we need a reason to fight for you and to die. Don't let all of this be in vain. We're not like Mikasa. We won't just do anything for you. We need to believe that you really are the answer to our problems. We need to believe that you're going to save us. He is literally the first one to say that. He steps up to say that. Like, that's leadership material. Armin wasn't going to say it. He's too close to Erin. But John straight up tells him as it is. He also begins to develop a relationship with Armin, and it's really nice to see, and it's one that's built off a lot of respect for one another. And they're two very different types of leaders, but it's really great to see. He learns from Armin. He learns what sort of person Armin is, and Armin learns what sort of person Jean is, and they kind of bounce off each other. Armin is a very good long-term strategist, whilst Jean is a very good short-term tactician, and they can learn off each other, and they realize that it's their ways, different ways of thinking that really complement one another. Now, later on in the Stoes district, when the female Titan is rampaging through and having a fight with Erin, it's there that Jean realizes that he could have been like all of the military police surrounding him. All of the military police, for lack of a better word, doing fuck all. They're just stood around kind of shitting themselves. And Jean realizes, oh, I could have been like them. That could have been me. It's like a very good way to round off his season arc. He understands that he has chosen this path of what he wants to do. And look, I'm a sucker for a character or just a guy that changes. I'm a sucker for a person who might have been selfish and changes his ways in order to do something that's good. So maybe that's why I've got a soft spot for him. I know that he's not the best character. I know that he's not the most fleshed out character, but I do think I just love him. He's my favorite character just because I respect the shit out of him. Like, there is a reason why he is the leader of what I like to call the underdogs, which is him, Connie, and Sasha. Now, in the first half of season 3, a part of the show where we get introduced to the idea of other humans being enemies, because throughout the entire show so far, it's the Titans. And Jean plays a minor role in this, but it's a very significant one, I think. There is a moment when they are trying to get Erwin and Historia out of the way of the military police. And when the military police eventually catch up to them and they start a fight, John hesitates killing one of them. And he almost died because of that. And Armin ends up being the one that kills the person. And later on there's a whole conversation with Levi and John and Armin. And Levi says, look, Armin, if you didn't kill that person, John would be dead. So embrace this new you, and John, next time you get in that situation, you're gonna have to just kill them. And later on, when they're confronting Kenny Ackerman's squad, there is a very purposeful close-up of Jean killing one of the military police, and it's very purposeful because it shows that he understands what he's got to do. But it's when they're fighting Kenny Ackerman's crew that he kills someone and he realizes, okay, this is who I am, this is what I've got to do, no fucking around. In fact, this theme carries over very significantly into season 4. But before we get to that, let's talk about the second half of season 3. Armin is tasked with leading the squad. Hanji is presumed dead. Erwin chose Armin to lead the squad because he sees the potential in him. However, when they're confronted by the Armored Titan and the Colossal Titan, Armin sees him and freezes. He doesn't know what to do. So he says to John, you're gonna have to lead because I have no clue what the hell I'm meant to do right now. Now Jean immediately picks this up. He's like, okay, we're gonna go and hide and then we're gonna rush the Armored Titan. But Armin, I need you to come up with something. I'm good at coming up with short-term strategies. I'm good at assessing a situation, but I can't figure out what to do. I know my strengths. This isn't one of them. You need to figure out a long-term plan. And I love that about him. I love that he knows his strengths, that he knows his limits. He knows that he can't fully comprehend a full-on plan. He needs someone else to do that. And I think, anybody else would beat themselves up. But he's like, no, I'm not the guy who's going to figure this out. You're that guy, Armin. You're going to have to figure it out. But I can hold them off for as long as possible. I can improvise a bunch of stuff right now, but you need to come up with a longer plan. God, I love him so much. In real life, if you don't know your strengths, if you don't understand where your strengths lie, if you delude yourself into biting off more than you can chew, if you convince yourself that you think you can do something that you know you can't, it's only going to make things worse, especially if you're leading a team and you're responsible for others. If you don't know what you're doing and you pretend that you do, you're going to do more harm than good. You need to be transparent and outline what it is that needs to happen, and that's exactly what he does with Armin. Now, in season 4, it puts the entire cast in an entirely new situation. From here on out, it's the humans that are enemies. Humans who can turn into titans, but also straight up just humans. And Jean is very aware of this. What he went through in the first half of season 3, of understanding that he had to kill people, it becomes very apparent. When they invade Liberio, he purposefully says he wants to keep casualties to a minimum, but he knows that he's going to have to do it. He's going to have to kill some people. But he doesn't like the way it's going. He doesn't want more deaths. At one point, when Gabby and Falco sneak onto the plane and kill Sasha, his best friend, he chooses not to throw them out or kill them, because what would that mean about who they are now? If they start killing children, are they good people anymore? Now granted, he does shoot at Gabby when she does it, but I don't think Jean really knew what he was doing. It was like a reaction to seeing his best friend get shot, not really realizing who it was. He just instinctively went to shoot. I completely get that, but I think it says a lot about Jean. He doesn't want to do a lot of what's going on. And the situation that the scouts are put in the invasion of Liberio, that is all on Erwin. He forced the scouts' hand into getting involved. Now that we've talked about Jean, and I've mentioned him a few times, I think we need to talk about Armin.
Oh my god, I'm really that guy.
I love Armin so goddamn much. He is the best. I love him. I love him. He's not my favourite character. Jean is my favourite, but Armin is second best. He really is that guy. I don't think I can call Armin a good person. I don't think he would even call himself a good person. I think he's very emotionally intelligent. I think he's very emotionally sensitive. And I think he does care about people. I'm not saying that he's a straight up bad person. I don't think he is at all. I think he's more good than he is bad, but he's not 100%. I don't think I can call him good, because he's the one that recognizes that if you want to change anything, you need to be able to sacrifice something. But in season 2, when they're trying to get Erwin back from Bertolt and Rainer, Armin realizes that he has to do something truly diabolical. He has to sacrifice his humanity. But not only does he have to, he also chooses to do that. There probably could have been another way to do it, but Armin made the choice. It was him. He made the choice to sacrifice his own humanity. How does he do it? He tells Bertolt that they are torturing Annie. He puts that image into Bertolt's mind. Yeah, it's fucked. But it's not the only bad thing that Armin does. In season 4, when he's the Colossal Titan, he does bomb an entire port. And he looks down and he sees dead children. He sees dead people. And he just feels terrible about what he's done. He looks down at it all and he says, Bertolt, is this what you saw as well when you would turn into the Colossal Titan? In fact, in season 1, he even says to Annie, I don't believe there is such thing as a good person or a bad person. I think a good person is just what they are to you. If you help me right now, you will be a good person to me. But if you don't, I think you will be a bad person to me. He's created this strange philosophy of like subjective goodness and badness. And he's not wrong. He's not exactly wrong in what he's saying. But by doing that, it means that his decisions have to be good, even if they're not like objectively good. You know? Does that make any sense, what I'm saying right now? But at the same time, even though he does a lot of these fucked things, he also is very caring, and he does care about the future of humanity, and he wants to see the best in people. He's the one that sees more than Erwin. Unlike Erwin, who just wants to kill, he just wants to fight everything. Erwin doesn't want freedom. He says that he wants freedom, but that's not what he wants. What he wants is power over others. He wants to enact revenge against the people, against his enemies. But Armin sees way more than that. Armin is the guy who wants to go out and see the sea. He wants to go out and meet people. He wants to create world peace, you know? He wants freedom and peace. He wants true peace. He shows a lot of care towards people. He shows guilt. He shows emotion. He feels curiosity and lives in the moment. When they went to the beach, he was the one that was enamored by everything he was feeling. He had finally seen the sea and he was holding on to a seashell, but Erwin could only focus on killing. That's not freedom. So with that in mind, I've always asked myself, why is it that characters like Bertolt and Armin are given the responsibility of the Colossal Titan, the biggest, most dangerous weapon in the world? On the surface, they're both a pair of softies. You know, they're both very sensitive people. They both are really thinkers more than fighters, especially like Bertolt is a thinker. Not in a strategic sense, he is like an overthinker, the way he thinks about things. So why is it that these big softies have been given the most dangerous weapon in the world? And I think it's a really simple answer, and I was always thinking about this, and I was always like confused as to why these people get that. I always knew there was some important reason, but I couldn't quite pin it. I couldn't quite place what it was. Those types of people are exactly the kind of people that should harness such a power. Imagine the power of the Colossal in the hands of someone like Erwin or someone like Flock. Just someone with a lot of power and a lot of irrational thinking. It would be an absolute nightmare. Now the thing is with Bertolt, he is almost too much of a softie. He's almost too emotionally sensitive. And I say almost because he overcomes it. He does overcome that, you know, emotional sensitivity. He does, in the end, decide that he's got to make decisions that he doesn't want to do, but he's got to do them. But by that point, it's too late, and he's outsmarted by Armin, even though it kills Armin in the end. Armin does freeze in certain dangerous situations, especially with Titans. But in the end, he pulls through like he always does. He overcomes his panic and anxiety, and he creates a plan to stop Bertolt. And he chose to sacrifice himself for humanity. So eventually in season 4, after he's been brought back as the Colossal Titan, he is the guy that ultimately leads the charge against Erwin. Yes, Mikasa lands the final blow, but it is Armin that motivates people to do it. Just a side note about that final fight in Attack on Titan season 4. You know when they're all in the plane? Isn't it great that every single character there feels like a character? You believe every single one of them, and that is just a testament to how good the writing is. The best stories are the ones where the story is driven by character, not the other way around. Yes, the world of Attack on Titan is fascinating and it's really interesting, but I think I can excuse some dodgy lore in a story or some dodgy world building if the characters themselves are so fascinating. But you know what? You don't even have to worry about that in Attack on Titan because it's all just so good. Like, there are problems with some of the story beats and occasionally in the lore building, but I genuinely just think it doesn't matter. When you look at those characters on the plane, when you look at all of them and you see who they are and you believe that they are people, you've lived through their experiences with them, you've lived through it all. None of it matters because you're just here for the ride at this point and you want to see them succeed. But just because Armin is leading that charge and is leading all of his friends and comrades, it doesn't mean that that self-doubt that he's always had isn't there, that overthinkingness. We see it when he's shouting at his body as it's just lying there and he's calling himself a piece of shit. He's saying that he's always been like this, that he's rubbish and he needs him now, and this self-hate that he's got. In the end, he overcomes it. He's the one that talks to Erwin. He's the one that understands what needs to happen. No matter what Armin is put through, no matter the trials and tribulations, no matter the shit that he feels, no matter how shit he feels, he still always pulls through, and I admire that so much, man. It really wasn't fair to leave the burden of Erwin onto Armin. But if anything, I think he does better than anything Erwin could have ever done in this situation of the rumbling or the final season in general. Because at his core, Armin is kind and he does care. Even though I don't think he's a good person, he does care. And he has a good soul. But I can't say the same for Erwin. I think Erwin is a very special character. He means a lot to me. I think he's really fascinating. I think he's really, really well done. But I don't think he's a good person at all. I think he's incredibly smart. He's really good at leading humanity into battle and inspiring his soldiers. His decisions can be quite questionable and morally grey. You know, when we're first introduced to Erwin, we are led to believe that he's doing everything in the name of humanity and in the name of freedom. But really, we find out in season 3 that he's actually doing it because of a childish dream that he had. We find out that his dad was a teacher and that his dad reveals to him that a lot of historical documents have been altered and a lot of it is inconsistent and doesn't match up. And it's his theory that people's memories were changed to hide the truth. And his dad was later killed for revealing that because Erwin was going around saying it to people. Erwin made it his mission to be in charge of the scouts and find out what's beyond the walls. And his dream is incredibly similar to Armin in that he wants to find out what's beyond the walls. Except there is a very clear difference between Armin and Erwin, I think. Armin wants nothing else but to explore outside the walls, and he wants to see what's out there and live in peace and live with others and see what's going on. Erwin, on the other hand, Erwin has no idea what he wants to find, what he expects to find. He just wants to know. Armin knows that there is a sea, he knows that there are mountains, he knows that there's all these things in wildlife because of stuff that his parents talked about and things that he found in a book. But Erwin doesn't really know what he wants. He just knows that he wants to know what's going on outside of the walls. He even says at one point, he doesn't know what he's going to do if he finds out. He has no idea. He hasn't thought that far ahead. He just knows that he wants to know what's going on. So I think to say it in a sentence, Erwin had a goal, whereas Armin had a vision. Erwin just is not a good guy. His first encounter with Levi is in the underground and he sticks his head in a puddle and treats him like a dog. And when Levi's friends die on their first expedition outside the walls, he shows no sympathy, no empathy. Not only that, but he sacrifices a lot of his comrades, like they're going out of fashion. Here's the thing, right? The thing that separates him and Erwin is basically a child who never truly grew up. And Erwin is driven by his own childish dream, except he did grow up. Erwin's trauma, Erwin's anger is directed at first towards the Titans, these things that he doesn't know what they are, no one really knows what they are. Whereas Erwin's immediate enemy, immediate trauma comes from other people. People who backstabbed him, killed his dad. He understands that people are the enemy. Erwin eventually realizes this, but it was like he had to get there. He had to make a bunch of steps. Erwin was just fast-tracked all the way to understanding humans are the enemy. And when you're wronged by humans, not some sort of fantasy beast, you think things differently. You think things through differently. And I think that's why Zeke is so cold. His enemy was always humans, and that's why he's so good at planning things, and in a way he is similar to Erwin in that he can separate his comrades or things just in terms of a goal. So to Erwin, something like a Titan, they're just obstacles in the way of his dream, in the way of who the real enemy is. Whereas for Erwin, Titans were the enemy at first. Erwin understood that history had been altered, and every step of the way towards that realization, it was humans that got in the way. So I believe whilst Erwin's intentions were good, he's not a good person. He sacrifices a lot of people. He literally charges people to their death, including him. In the end, he realizes that he needs to sacrifice himself, and as Levi says, to give up on his dream. But there is always a lot of debate online about how would Erwin have approached the rumbling. You know, if they brought him back instead of Armin, what would have happened? There is no doubt in my mind that Erwin would have gone with the rumbling. At least not in a way to kill everyone, but to hold off everyone and threaten them. I think Erwin would have been way, way, way more merciless than Armin ever was. Because Armin always had a dream, he always had a vision, he always knew what it was he wanted to do. Erwin was always driven by getting out of a cage the same way Erwin was. And I think as soon as he's out of that cage, I think he would rain down hell upon the people that put him there and force him into this position. Look, I'm going to do more videos on Attack on Titan. I've got some more topics, like I want to talk about how I think Sasha is a really underdeveloped character. I want to talk about Gabby. I want to talk about the Attack Titan and how I think the Attack Titan is just the childishness, the repressed childishness of Ymir. I want to talk about poor Zeke. I want to talk about how we need to protect Falco at all costs. And I want to talk about Levi and Kenny Ackerman. All of this stuff really fascinates me, and I just want to talk about how much I fucking love it so much. And look, whilst I've got you here, I thought, why don't we talk about the members? So here are the channel members. We've got Derek Arthur, Pwefu, Split Prune, Travis Baker, Mr. Toadman, Namfam, The Worst Protagonist, Jack is a Mimic, Timothy German Games, Etchmill, Professor Scum, Wade Cohen, Mr. Ben, Pride, and Jonathan Webber. All of you, thank you so much for being members. Really means a lot. Thank you for being members. Thank you for paying for this. Means a lot. Look, I'll see you on the other side. Videos are going to be slowed down a bit because I need to get a job. That's my priority right now. But I also do love doing these videos. I don't know if I'm still going to do Sekiro because I'm not enjoying it that much. But I'm still going to do Mass Effect. I'll get into it more. And yeah. Thank you. I'll see you on the other side.